they'll come to the table and say like, oh, we want to work with y'all. Y'all cool. Y'all innovative. Y'all bring in fresh energy. And then as we get into the execution of what they need, we don't get a chance to really apply some of that because we're kind of helping with the X's and O's or the ones and the twos, which isn't necessarily, directly tied to the scope that we might assign. So. What up, world? This is David Butler, aka Dave Has Wings, and we're here for the first episode of Living Room Podcast by Hugh House. I am a partner in Hugh House, focusing on strategy and operations. And I have with me my boy Elliott McKnight. I'll let him introduce himself.
Yeah, man. Elliott McKnight, partner and creative technologist, leading on a lot of the blends of innovation, art, tech, and design, and that blend of different mediums and formats into one. So yeah, man, excited to get this joint kicked off, bro. Like, this has been a long time coming. I'm dumb excited, and really geeked to get into this format, and like as we create this new space for us to kind of speak, and as we're making the transition.
Yeah, man, no doubt, definitely been a long time coming. So I don't know, I guess it would be good to kind of give people an idea why we felt like it was a good idea for Hugh House to start a podcast, and then also get into like what the concept of the living room is and kind of what it was rooted in and where it came from, so people have an idea why we're here.
Absolutely. You want to kick that one off, or you want me to take it?
Yeah. I think podcasting is just like a personal passion of mine. I listen to a lot of podcasts. I had one called Here and Doing Things that I was doing a while underneath my brand Analog Luxury, just kind of interviewing homies about their stories creatively and seeing how art and design like influence their life and all that kind of stuff. So I've always enjoyed the medium of audio, and I think we've built a lot of brand equity in what we built in Hugh House over the last 5 years, and it's dope to have a space to kind of chat with some of the folks that we've come across, that we've either worked with or people that are homies, and maybe their creative practice has grown or changed over the years, and just, really just creating that space to go a little bit deeper with homies on the record to a certain degree. A lot of times, like, I guess kind of get into the living room concept a little bit. It's like, these are conversations that you might have in the living room at a homie's crib. Like, that's the goal for this, is like to just really chat through and have the conversations that we would normally have in private, on the record, and yeah, for the agency or for the studio to be a torchbearer for that, or a platform for that. So I don't know if you got anything or how you view it.
Yeah, man. Similar thought process, and I think definitely tapping in on the love for audio. That's something that was like an original love for myself, especially just from how.
Yeah, you look your audio file.
Man, I'm trying, bro. But yeah, my audio has always been around, like music and sound has always like kind of driven me. And then podcast has always been something that was just like kind of in the ethers, but I never really had a real reason to lock into it until we kind of set up this situation. So I'm just excited to talk about that. And even again, having these conversations that we would normally have in private, and having that, a little bit more public, and just really talking about like where the industry is, like how does this work, and really kind of kicking it back down to anybody that may be like a step or two behind us trying to figure it out. Like, it just gives them a little bit of game, or give them a little bit of insight to make better decisions and be able to prove or get through the process quicker than we did. So that's really the interesting part as well. And just having like different perspectives from people that, you may not have had access to beforehand, that we may have access to be able to give their perspective, give their stories, and really, like, to your point, man, like a real laid back, chill environment to discuss these issues, while also double tapping on what's happening in the culture, what's happening in the world, what's happening in art, and bringing it all together. So I'm excited.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. That being said, like, what you've been up to like lately, or what you've been on lately as a, I guess, not necessarily straight a source of inspiration, but just like what you've been on, what you're listening to, what you're watching, like what's the vibes?
Yeah, bro. We were just talking about before we started. random enough, the Wiz just dropped that Cushion OJ2, bro, and I've been playing that joint. It was a pleasant surprise because I did not expect much from it, but I allowed it to play in the background. I just went, I think it was a week ago, like last Friday before last, working, and I played that joint, and bro, I looked up and I was halfway through the album. I was jamming the whole way, and the Max B record is crazy. The OT Genesis record is crazy. He got a song with Spitter, and I was just telling you before we got on, like, it's not like a super lyrical, super, like, I don't want to oversell it, like it's mad hits on there or something like that. It's just more sort of feeling in the vibe that it is giving, like super lifestyle type rap, like reminding me of like the Yellow album with Dom, you know what I'm saying? Reminding me of like Pilot Talk series type of vibe, original Cushion Orange Juice type of vibe. So like just getting that feeling back, like in the midst of everything that's going on right now. Like I just needed that, bro. Like it was clutch. So that's been getting me through. Honestly, like from rap, I was listening to Cardi, and I can't listen to that all the time, like 8 a.m. You know what I'm saying? So this is like some cool, like on the wake up, you know what I mean? And then it's like some inspirational, like go get your money, you know what I'm saying? Go get the bread, bro. I'm like, yes, yeah, let's just run this up. So yeah, bro, that's top of mind for me right now, bro. What about you?
Yeah, man. I hope you ain't starting the day off with Cardi every day. That's kind of crazy.
Nah, bro. I can't do that, bro. That had your spirit dirty as hell, man. That'll have you crashing out, crashing out in traffic.
Crashing out on the commute. Yeah, man. It's kind of crazy in terms of what I've been listening to or what I've been working on. Let me see. It's been watching a lot of film, I think, or not even a lot of film, just like kind of binging TV shows with the fam, really. Finished a joint called Full Circle that was on HBO or on Max. So yeah, watched that joint. That was pretty interesting. Started Dope Thief on Apple TV.
Yo, how you feel about Dope Thief?
And there's another. We only watched the first episode, man. Wifey got a little. It was a little heavy. So she was like, yeah, we can't really be watching this at night. We're going to have to pick like a Saturday to really get back into it because it's so dark and so gritty. It kind of tripped her out. The first scene with my man's with the walkie-talkie kind of took her off. So she was like, yeah, we can't be watching this before bed type vibe. So I got to revisit it. But it was dope to start though. I enjoyed it to get it rolling. On the music tip, I've been kind of floating all over, revisiting old stuff. Obviously listening to a lot of jazz too, just because my other gig. So, and just listening to really, bro, what I can't really get away from too, is that Yusef Day's album, Black Classical Music. Like it's just like a go-to to just throw it on and just like let it run. That's probably the immediate thing that I throw on top of like on the flip side, which is crazy. He was my number one artist for my Spotify rap last year. It's this kid named Forrest Frank. And he's it's got like a pop rap Christian type vibe to him. But we enjoy his music a lot. And obviously having a baby girl in the car, we ain't like, listen to everything we used to listen to. So like Forrest and some of the other guys, some really dope like Christian rap out there these days. Guys like Indie Tribe that I found out about. More than just like I grew up on like Cross Movement Records. So like, you know what I mean? It was like probably like a handful of people that was actually doing it. And it was like early Lecrae before he kind of blew up and all that kind of stuff. So now it's like a whole, like you got like cats that sound like, you know what I'm saying, a Tribe Called Quest, or cats that sound like Far Side that are like making, Christian rap, which is dope. So it's been dope to see that too. So I've been, playing a lot of Forrest Frank, playing a lot of Yusef Days. There's a cat I found out about, Chief Ajuwa, playing a lot of his stuff. There's another joint. There's another group that I'm forgetting about right now. That's slipping my brain, but if I think of it, I'll toss it in the pot. But yeah, just a lot of jazz, a little bit of Christian rap. That's really been the vibes on a music tip.
When you said the Lecrae artist, I was thinking about that. I was listening to some of his work like probably like 2 weeks ago, and bruh definitely got some joints. And on top of that, bro, we got to figure out a way to get you to see Yusuf live, bro. I think you gon' I don't know if you have you seen him live already?
Nah, bro. So that was the crazy thing was he came here last year, I think, and I found out about the show the day of. I was out playing pickup soccer in the morning, and then the homie was like, "Yo, Yusuf Days is coming." Blah. I forgot how we ended up even talking about music. We were just kicking it after playing. He was like, "Yeah, like Yusuf Days coming." Woo woo. And it was at neighborhood theater, and that joint was sold out, and I was hot.
Yeah, we gotta figure that out, bro.
It was right after he dropped the album. Right after he dropped the album.
Yeah, bro. Yeah, nah, he got it. Him and the band, they got it. Like that joint was like, it was like one of the. I saw him one time. Like I think I told you that. Like off the random in like Central Park, and it was like free, like Capital One or something like that was doing something, and he was performing, and the homie had told me about it, so I pulled up, and yeah, it was like one of those situations where like you'll be listening and like 10 minutes go by and you ain't even realize like, oh, bro, I've been in a trance, like just vibing out to the music for I don't know how long, like, and it was a while. I can't remember the last time that happened where I was just like really just like listening, and then you start like daydreaming a little bit, and then you start like just going to a place mentally, and you're like, yeah, and then you realize like, dang, bro, he done went through like 3 records of a drum solo, did this, did that, like it was different, bro. Like I encourage anybody who's listening, definitely go see a Yusuf Days show. It's worth it by far.
That sound like the first time I seen K-Tronada. Like when I first seen K-Tronada, I didn't know what I was experiencing it. Like I didn't have context for it. You know what I mean? Like I was at a random like branded event for Adidas, and I was shooting for an old employer and like covering social. K-Tron was up there. I actually got to see No Worries as well. So got to see Anderson .Paak and I forget the his partner in that joint, but that was an insane concert, bro. And it was for the Adidas EQT relaunch a couple years ago when they was bringing EQT back to the market. And I didn't even have, like I said, I didn't have no reference point for K-Tronada at that point. And then I looked him up afterwards, and I forget the name of the album that album had just dropped. Maybe like it's the joint with it's got the
real 99
funky like cover art. Yes. No. Was that it? Hold on. Let me see. It got the real funky cover art on it. Let me see. That's going to trip me out.
Is it the one with, I'm bugging out too, because I know this. Was it the one with the
99.9%? Yeah.
Okay.
That joint.
That joint was crazy. That changed the game.
Bro. That joint was, it did, bro. It did. And then, he ended up coming. I think I forgot how I saw him again. Like maybe he came to like a festival in North Carolina. I ended up shooting that too. But I was prepared this time, and I had done my research, so I was vibing. But the first time I was in, like, to your point, I was in a trance. Like, bro, what am I experiencing right now? Like, what is happening? I forgot I was supposed to be taking pictures. It was crazy.
Yeah, bro. I feel like that's a I think it might be partial to jazz music in general, like just the nature of it, in just the style and the way and the formatting of jazz music. It's a natural, organic response to that style. Cause there's a spot up here too called Close Up. It's like a jazz bar that's like super dope in LES, I think it is. That joint just like, just the setup, the lighting, the way that everything's kind of arranged, it's like super small, but we didn't go see anybody live, but it's even just like hearing the music in a way that it just fit within the space. It's just like, it's mad cool. You can just chill there and just like spend time and just flow on a cool vibe. You know, you may take your lady with you. Like, I just think that jazz music in essence just kind of puts you in that space. And then there's like a couple other genres, like, you know, with K-Tronada, like more alternative, you know, I would say even like styles of like drum and bass from time to time, like just like something that got like these long 5-6 minute songs, 4-minute songs where it's kind of on loop, or some like electronic records. Yeah, man, those are the ones for sure.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy to see how even house and Afro beats is kind of taking over right now. Like every party in general is like like that's kind of at the core of it. It's kind of like driving and like all the kind of like remixes and stuff that people are doing for their different like DJ sets and all that kind of stuff. It's kind of crazy to see how that emergence has kind of taken over the scene for real.
I've been seeing, I don't know if you've been seeing it around your way, but I'm seeing it to a point where it's almost like a marketing tactic to be like, nah, we're not playing no trap. Like, this is not a trap. This is not trap music party. We're gonna be playing I'm a piano. We're gonna be playing like house music, Afro beats, a lot of Caribbean based music. So I've been seeing, and I feel like I haven't seen it so bluntly said until maybe like a year ago. But it's been this slow climb, which I'm honestly very cool with, bro. Like, let's balance it out a little bit. You know what I mean? Get some dancing going. Everybody kind of catch a little vibe. We can have some more turned up stuff here and there. But like, bruh, it's really interesting. But
that's everybody talking about. Just kind of like how like club culture, like people are rebelling against like club and like section culture. Like everybody tired of like bottle service and everybody want to get back to dances. I think it's a lot of as our generation starting to mature and take over different spaces. It's actually interesting to see it kind of happen all together. People are making new things that are coming together. Like it's a joint out here in Charlotte that people have been doing called R and Brew. I don't know exactly who organizes it, but it's a pretty dope joint where they like kind of go into different coffee shops, like a midday vibe, DJ, you know what I'm saying? Like just kind of give people opportunity to kind of mix and mingle. And I haven't been able to make it out to one yet, but I've been seeing it like all over the place, like TikTok, Instagram, all of that.
Yeah, man. This is a super left turn, but you just made me think about like other things that has been inspiring lately. It's this brand. Have I shared this brand with you, Airco?
Nah.
Bro, I gotta send that joint to you, man. Like, it's basically, I found out about them probably like closer to the pandemic, but it's something to check out in a couple days. They're doing like a pop-up shop, but their whole business model is like about using, I think it's carbon dioxide, like alternative fuel for like airplane companies and really airplane companies for the most part. And so they got like a partnership with like JetBlue. They work for some other, I think they work with like the government directly. And I think now I just went on their website, like they have like some, I think they're working with the Defense Department a little bit as well too. But on the back end, they're using like, I mean, not only in the back end, that's the back end, but on the front end, they have like their own products and they're using like the same approach to like, say, perfume. So they'll have like this alternative like carbon dioxide, like perfume or something like that. They have like different products that they're releasing. And then like, I think they may have, I'm not sure if it's a water or not. But the way that they're going about it, like the branding, their motion design, like their identity is crazy for what the type of work they're doing. Cause it's something like, oh yeah, we're trying to change like the fuel that's used for airplanes to make it like, a little bit better. But they're having a pop-up this weekend and I think they got like some merch, some clothes, a couple different products. But that's something that's like been super interesting going into like some of our conversations about, businesses that aren't necessarily like the most popular, and how you can like take that and then apply it and use some of the same like tactics from a marketing, branding perspective and still do some of the cool things that we're used to, but applying it to industries or into sectors that you wouldn't normally see that. So I'm trying to check that out like this weekend, bro. I think they're doing like a pop-up on Saturday. I got to send you like the link of what it looks like. But Air Company. This joint's crazy.
Yeah, nah, that sounds fire. That sounds crazy. Yeah, that sounds real crazy.
Matter of fact, Motion
I mean, it kind of gets to what we...
Hey, what's the name? My bad.
Oh, okay. Oh, no,
yeah,
you good. Yeah. They the ones, they helping them out on the back end?
They was the ones that did like the identity for them. So, and they usually do, projects for, you name it, like any big brand. They've been doing a lot of cool work, but just making that connection there too, like seeing like how there's a bridge between some of the identity and branding work being applied to like these industries, which is like super ill to me.
Yeah, nah, I mean, this is definitely time. And if there's a space to be able to do something like that would, you know what I mean? That's that cool, innovative work. You know what I'm saying? That is touching a niche audience, like folks who are at the intersection of like design and sustainability.
Facts.
You know what I'm saying? Like, people who, but have like taste on the side of like the design side. It's not just like design from like a utilitarian perspective, but there's also like some aesthetic to it. You know what I mean? And it's dope to see that like things are starting to bleed into one another, where you got these opportunities where these kind of like overlooked industries or industries that are more traditional, you know, start to take on this more like branded, design driven aesthetic, and you start to kind of see that show up in the work. And that's where a lot of you know what I'm saying, innovation comes in, because you had like some of the limitations of what you're getting from like what's needed or what fits into like the scientific process side of things. But then you also have like that challenge being met with, you know, an incredible aesthetic. So I can't wait to check out some of that stuff. It sounds wild.
Yeah, man. But as we get set, you know, I know we got a couple of different things we wanted to run through as well with the with today.
Yeah. I'm curious. Was that the inspiration section? You want to count that as inspiration section, or you want to? Was you talking about getting into that?
That was kind of inspiration for me. You know. Yeah. So I feel good about that.
Yeah, man. I've been I think I've really been inspired by sport lately. Like, it's been crazy, and it's pure nostalgia, because I've been seeing that Nike's like really going crazy on the revamp of the Total 90, and that initial Total 90 was when I first got introduced to the sport. So like Total 90 was their like go-to like sport brand in the mid 2000s, and I had first started playing soccer / football like the sophomore year of high school. So I was like right smack dab in the middle of that, and like to see it, like to be at a point now where I'm seeing it, like one, realizing that dang, that was almost 20 years ago, but two, also seeing that stuff is like just coming back and seeing the nostalgia for it, and seeing the like cats that were like tapped into football culture globally in the same way that I was probably tapped into basketball, football, and baseball at that time, like basically the core like American sports, like to see their nostalgia for it, like now that we have access like TikTok, seeing different influencers from like the UK and stuff like that, and seeing like that, dang bro, like this is your version of like an Allen Iverson like Reebok commercial, right? And I have some of those things too, like some of those same nostalgic moments. Like I was introduced with those like Jogo Bonita ads with like the Barcelona national team with like Ronaldinho and all them. So like I caught pieces of it, but like cats that were at the like center of it and it was their universe, it's kind of interesting seeing how they react to that stuff coming back. So it's been inspiring just to see it in like a different context for real. So yeah, I'm ready to see how they're going to continue to utilize it and continue to put product into the market. They've been doing a lot of activations. It's been kind of weird how they've been doing America, just because they've had like Travis Scott affiliated with it. It feels like Nike's just kind of like sprinkling Travis wherever they can. It's like, yeah, let's put them in soccer. Let's put them in basketball. We're going to put them up, like, let's put them in cross training, like wherever they can put him. He seems to, kind of be like a catch all for everything they need to happen collab wise right now, just driving energy, which is an interesting thing to experience, especially having been outside the industry for a couple years now. But yeah, that's it's been dope to see the Total 90 stuff come back and to see people's reaction to it and nostalgia for it in the same way that I have like that same feeling for something else.
Yeah, man, I think that's real key. And, you made me think about, sports branding in general and how things have changed over the years, obviously with NIL and just like, again, more access from a social media standpoint. But I'm curious to know what other examples is like inspiring you right now too. I know you mentioned one already, but it made me think about even just like outside of football. I know you love soccer and everything like that too. So I'm wondering if it's something that you're seeing in that space or just like in the ecosystem overall. That's like really.
It's been interesting just to see. I've been applying like my like sneakerhead background to like football cleats, like soccer cleats, and to see the conversation around like Burnout, because they literally be dropping like every week. You know what I'm saying? Like there's like weekly or like bi-weekly drops in terms of like new colorways across different models from all the different brands. So you could like, and I mean, these joints ain't cheap, bro. You're talking about like $240 to $300, and it's to the point where like even some of the like key athletes that like they'll wear them for like the launch weekend, but then like you'll see them a couple weeks later and they'll be back in like kind of some of the old faithfuls and some of the old trusty joints. So it's interesting to see like the speed at which these things are coming out, and then it's like it's a global impact and the way that also just paying attention to like the segmentation. So like there are certain like models or certain sole plates and stuff like that are released overseas that you can't get over here in the US. So just seeing how, just paying attention to those nuances now that I've been like really tapped in, really following the sport and really being like really leaning into it like the last couple of years. And now that I started playing again more consistently and playing like adult league, like rec and all that kind of stuff. Like it's just been interesting to see those little nuances and applying that same retail background, that same sneaker background to paying attention to the retail cycles of the world of soccer.
Facts. Yeah, man. That I didn't know they was dropping that often. Like I don't think I realized that they was dropping
Bro's
boots
really insane.
That's insane, bro. That's actually kind of crazy. I couldn't imagine. Which makes me think, I wonder if it's the same, like to your point about applying like the streetwear and sneaker background to this, because I know, timeline around building and actually getting a sneaker into production, it takes like a couple years. So I'm wondering, like, are they able to release because it's a shorter amount of time, or is it changed, or that's just what they on? Like, I wonder what the vibe is for that.
Well, they normally drop, like, they'll make tweaks to the models year over year. So what they drop in is essentially colorways or player exclusives. You know what I'm saying? And then sometimes they'll drop, like, you'll have a new model that may drop mid-season, but that's kind of rare. But usually at the kind of like the top of the year, they kind of, they've made some tweaks and they're getting ready to drop the joints and all of that.
Adidas is definitely at the top of my list for performance footwear, because one, the design is crazy. And there's this blog, or I don't even know what they want to call this brand, called Concept Kicks, and they focus on footwear design specifically. It's from this guy named Mr. Bailey, and he's a footwear designer. He's done like collabs like Timberland. He's done a lot of interesting products and releases. But they interviewed a team from Adidas basketball, and they did a whole interview about like how they've been approaching it. Because if you look at the players that they have there right now, they've been going really strong with Anthony Edwards, Dame Lillard, and who am I forgetting? James Harden. And so in that interview, they talked about like how they repositioned and they actually moved the Adidas basketball like design team like from out of the Portland office, and I think they're in LA somewhere. So they just got like a fresh start, and it kind of like started from the ground up and was able to like leverage all the things that they did in the past, like with the Kobe Crazy Eights, with other releases that they had in the past, and really be like, all right, bro, like let's just like clean the slate. And part of them moving, and I don't know if the pandemic was a part of that move or reasoning behind that, but really just clearing the whole slate, cleaning the whole table, and saying like, all right, let's start from scratch, but also infusing the DNA that we have. So now they have like these brand new silhouettes that just all been ridiculous. And then with the rollout with Anthony Edwards with the Georgia peach, and just having like the peach background color like every single time, like really building that world. Actually, Bema just did like a little post about that today too, because they had a moment where in the rollout they had Ice-T and I forgot the other actress's name, but they kind of did like the CSI situation where like, because Anthony's like going crazy on folks, dunking on them, whatever. He's leaving like a crime at the scene type of energy. And yeah, bro, they showing up to the playoff games. Now they got like evidence bags. They sitting in the stands with the bags or whatever. It's like kind of creating like this whole like fun, interesting situation. So yeah, man, I just think that when you were talking about that, I thought about them in regards to how the world building with sport right now is like in a real interesting time, just because so much is changing and we have like new rules, new athletes, new people coming up, and how like people are going to approach that. Like, this is the first time I've seen anybody actually like, while they've been going crazy with the AE1s, like, wearing them with jeans, wearing them like with a regular fit. So yeah, I need to pair myself on a low. I need one. I need one.
Yeah, nah. I hadn't even really been tapped in on the rollout for the new joint. I'm gonna have to go look it up, to be honest.
Hey, bro.
But
he got the illest rollout.
Honestly, what they've been doing for Adidas basketball in general is been super interesting. With them, like you got this has been like the tagline for the joint. And they've been kind of infusing all the athletes and those have been interesting ads too, and they've been real short and to the point. And they definitely own to something over there. So it's definitely interesting to hear a little bit of that background in terms of like how their team was moving and all that kind of stuff for sure.
But yeah, man.
I think, for the last little bit, just tapping in on, some changes we got coming up for the agency itself. I think part of it is even that in and of itself is going from, considering ourselves like a creative agency and taking more of like a studio approach to the work and kind of, quote unquote, stepping back a bit in order to transition to something that's going to be a little bit more fulfilling and a little bit more sustainable, for what we're looking to do in the future. So, I mean, I think, spend a little bit of time kind of going over that. And I'd be interested from your perspective as the newest in the fold, kind of what your thoughts were kind of like coming in and what your experience has been with us kind of being in that agency model. That's kind of like going after that scaled agency model. And then, kind of us backing into, kind of tapering things back and being a little bit more intentional about the type of work that we're doing moving forward.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's again, we started working together a little over a year ago, and I had been in a space where I did a couple of projects or a couple stints where it was more in an agency type setting, where it's more like service oriented. But a lot of times before getting with Hugh House, it was more so I was on a brand side of things. So it was a little bit of a shift there in terms of having, instead of just one person delivered to us, like, okay, we have maybe 4 or 5 concurrent accounts happening at the same time. So that was definitely like a little bit of a shift for myself. And I think that as we started to work and you and I knowing each other from our previous employers and being like in the center point of culture, art, of design and things of that nature, we came from a certain background. And so like the way that we move and the way that we know to scale was a little bit different than what you would do in a traditional setting. So I know that like over time, as we started to work together, do more and more and more, I think it just became more and more evident, like trying to chase the scale from a traditional agency perspective. We can do it, but is that the best use of our talents? Is that what we really want to do? Is this the type of work that we really want to get into? And that was something that we were kind of like asking ourselves and having conversations about over the last few months. And I think that not saying that we won't collab with different brands, we won't provide services at all. Like, it's not like it's cutting it all the way off or anything like that, but it's just the way that we go about it and the way that we approach it is going to change. And I think that it's going to be something that, one, is a little more organic for us, and then two, it's a modern way of doing business in general and approaching whether it's agency work, studio work in general as well too. So I think that was something that was a major focal point, and I think it's better off in that way, because unless man, like, to be honest, unless you got like a 10-15 man team that can like work on each account individually or do X, Y, and Z, it really can make it challenging for you to be able to execute the way that we would like to, and then still do the projects that we love. And then also just making sure and not trying to force some of our ideas or what we think will be best into a situation where they may need something else. So we may see a brief, or we may see something that we're like, oh man, we could approach it like this, and that may not work for that particular client at that time, even though we have our thought process and our way of like approaching things. So trying to find a balance of not trying to force that situation on a client or on a particular project when we can execute that on our own, and then still be of service to anybody that we come into contact with, but not making that, the end all be all. So yeah, man, that's currently where I sit with it, and kind of like my perspective over the past like year and a half. But also would love to know, like, from you as well, like, what's your thought process? Like, how are you feeling, as we're making this transition?
Yeah, man, I think part of it has just been trying to figure out how do we learn from what hasn't worked over the last 5 years. I think it's interesting. The 5-year mark is an interesting spot because it definitely, you've been in it for a little bit, right? And they say, most people stop, or most businesses, quote unquote fail, within the first 5 years. So the fact that we pushing into year 6 and, continuing to pivot and continuing to, get after the things that are going to allow for the brand to keep moving forward is definitely, where my hopes are, and what I'm most excited about. I think a lot of it, again, is like learning from what hasn't worked up until this point and how do we continue to evolve. And I think, being targeted early on, like year 1, year 2, targeted at the cultural sector, and then kind of like opening ourselves up, trying to get into more projects that are industry agnostic has presented its own challenges, right? Like just something simple stuff like around like, I think some of the ideas and some of the things that we were bringing to the table, I'm not sure if the clients and stuff that we work with up until this point were prepared or are prepared to leverage some of those things that we were bringing to the table. So it's been like, okay, as opposed to like, to your point, in terms instead of trying to put like a square peg in a round hole, it's like, well, let's just execute on some cool stuff, and then we'll look at what comes out of that, right? We'll look at who that attracts and being able to push things forward that way. So like, how do we continue to build a community? We've definitely been rooted in community all 5 years of our existence. So how do we continue to get our people together? How do we continue to create opportunities to educate them about the space and help them become better and stronger creatives, while also creating opportunities to, provide services and really leaning into media as well. Like that's another reason why, podcasting was a good fit for us, was just that, like, it's another mechanism that allows for us to potentially, at some point maybe add a revenue stream to the agency, just off the strength of what we're already building and what we're already doing and what we're innately interested in, versus it being something where, you got to convince somebody of the value. You got to convince somebody of that they need it. You got to tell them why. You got to do all that. Then you got to execute on it, right? So it's the education piece that has been, one of the major challenges working across industries. Is if you don't have an organization or a company that's already set up to leverage or understand what it is, like the values that we're bringing, I think that's been a challenge as well, because they'll come to the table and say like, oh, we want to work with y'all. Y'all cool. Y'all innovative. Y'all bringing fresh energy. And then as we get into the execution of what they need, we don't get a chance to really apply some of that, because we're kind of helping with the X's and O's or the ones and the twos, which isn't necessarily, directly tied to the scope that we might assign. So it's been trying to navigate that as a business owner and as an agency owner as well. It's like, what's that? We can't account for, deficiency, quote unquote, amongst clients. You can't really account for that early on. You know what I mean? So it's been it's been a couple of different situations of like getting into something and saying like, oh, we're going to do this, and then getting underneath the hood and understanding like, y'all not set up to be able to do that. So, we got to try and make pivots, and it just makes it tension and awkward, and managing relationships and stuff at that point is weird and all that kind of stuff. So I think centering ourselves as a brand, not getting away from kind of chasing scale, really just building community, really getting folks out, really providing value to whoever we can that's showing up to these events, and then being able to back into some of those like cooler branded opportunities as they come up, as people who are, attracted to the work, are interested in the work and what we're doing, come to us, and being able to kind of make things happen that way is another, just the other way that we're approaching it. And I think the studio model is a little bit more suited for where we want to go in the future, at least for this phase. You know what I'm saying? Like we could get an infusion of resources tomorrow, right? It might change everything, right? But, for now, as we continue to self-fund, as we continue to be independent, it requires you to, make the necessary changes to make sure that you exist into the future. So, yeah, man, I'm excited about where we're headed and what's next, and getting into even some of the stuff that you talk about, like what's just inspiring in general is like, we've been doing these editions of Bunko, which are creative book exchange. And I just started paying attention again to just like the medium of print in general, and went back to some of the, like, I look back to like a zine that I made in 2018 for Analog Luxury. And I was just looking at the PDF file on the like website page where it was being hosted. And cause it's like a print to order type situation. And I was like, yo, this was fire. Like this was typos and all. Like this was cool. So I'm starting to think of like, what's the Hugh House version of that? You know what I'm saying? Like, how can we, as we're building community around, coffee table books and creative, like visual inspiration, like it got me inspired to figure out like, yo, like it would be dope to like, how do we start to put together some physical, like Hugh House print materials, you know what I mean, that we start to distribute at Bunko or something like that. So, yeah, man, just doing a lot more, trying to allow space for like the brand to live, so that, the brand is inspired and can be inspired to make things at the same time. And then we're already seeing some of the benefits from that already.
Yeah, man, absolutely. And it sounds like, I think the way to sum it up is just going from chasing to attracting. And I think that's like the big thing that we notice over the last, definitely since I've been around. And I think that even from the 5-year standpoint, going into year 6 and diving deep on, again, like Bunko, which was great. We did that about, I want to say almost about a month ago now, a few weeks back. And really just having people come by and share their books, share their collection, have a dialogue around it, and just having a conversation and a dialogue in a community-centric space for people who have an affinity for print, affinity for design, and affinity for even, some people came through and showed some novels that they were interested in as well too. And so I know we've been really keen and starting to hit the ground running with a couple of different brand owned properties that included Bunko. We also have H4. We also have Workflow as well too. I kind of want to open up the floor real quick just to tap in on a couple of those things. And I know you've been spearheading a lot of that, so maybe even just starting with Workflow, because I know we did that as well too. Of like your perspective on that and like kind of the genesis and how that came to be.
Yeah, nah, man. I was just thinking about how we got started. Again, we were started 2019, very close to Charlotte's arts and culture sector. And we, just recognized that, at that time we weren't calling it that, but what we call it now is artistic and cultural practice. And it has a space in the marketing and advertising world. And we were kind of, using that to leverage insights for clients and making sure that the creatives that were working on projects, had that lived insight, that artistic and cultural practice to go along with the creative skills. And that added another layer to the work. And that was kind of our positioning. And, now we're kind of in a space where we're more so celebrating that. But we again want to be able to provide value to the community that's around us. I think that's part of what's happened over the last 5 years too, as we become client focused and trying to scale and trying to build a business, is that we've had natural touch points of like people who are just community members who, are, admire the work that we do, want to work with us, maybe want to figure out how they can do some similar work, maybe want to work for us as contractors. Workflow was an opportunity to show them like, okay, this is how you interface with that formally, right? No matter what your medium is, whether you're a designer or a copywriter or a strategist or, a painter or whatever it is, like if you want to figure out how you start doing more branded work, like we can create a space where we can bring in some of our connections and some of our homies, like have you build out a portfolio, give you a review of that portfolio. And, again, like just have an opportunity it's like a creative kickback, to be honest. It's like come show some work in progress, like get some feedback from the homies. Like that's kind of been the whole vibe for Workflow, is like, how do we create a space where we have, again, you to be able to give you some access to some industry experts and some people from our network, and then hopefully maybe even prepare you to, either, do some contract work with us or do some contract work with somebody else in the industry. That's always been the undertone. And obviously that's in collaboration with The Block, which is the Block Foundation, Inc., which is our nonprofit arm as well. So that was kind of what Workflow was about. In terms of Bunko, bro, I want more like IRL inspiration. You know what I'm saying? And we got so much. I know everybody who is into art books, into print materials, into lookbooks and all that kind of stuff. We got so much stuff just like sitting around the crib. And as opposed to just going out and spending another, $100, $200, $60, $80 on a new coffee table book, something that you want to see is probably already in your network if there was like an intentional space for you to be able to, have access to it. So it's just about getting people together. We don't see Bunko as like you come in to permanently swap. I think a book exchange or a book swap has like a certain connotation that like everything is permanent, and like some people you pay a fee and then you have to be ready to release it, and they put it on the table and it's like a mad dash for you to go grab whatever attracts your eye. But I think our approach to Bunko is for this to be very communal, and for you to be like, oh, what'd you bring? And for there to be a conversation about it, and for us to take our featured guest and, see what they have in their collection. And everything don't got to be permanent, right? Like, give it to somebody, loan it to them for a couple of weeks. Y'all get up, have a cup of coffee, have a chat about the materials or about something else. And it's just another way to build community. And then same thing with H4. H4 is just like industry mixer type vibe. Like, how do we just have, a Hugh House happy hour in partnership to be able to just bring people together to talk through what they're seeing, to have a space that's specifically for industry professionals. Like, we need just more infrastructure for creative industry, you know what I mean, specifically in the Southeast. And then also these are concepts that can travel. You know what I mean? How do we take any of these and like connect with the homies in Charleston, connect with the homies in Atlanta, connect with the homies in DC, in Virginia, you know what I mean? Tennessee, Texas. Like, how do we start to let these concepts travel a little bit? But at a base level, you know, we're going to be doing those things quarterly, you know, here in Charlotte, just to get back to there being some energy around the brand, because we've been so client focused, you know, the last couple of years. So that was kind of the thinking in us putting together those quarterly events, is like, how do we touch on different, like, how do we have something that's just vibe related? How do we have something that's work related? And then how do we have something that's like inspiration driven, to kind of help, again, just help with the brand's aura, if you will, and kind of get us back outside a little bit. So yeah, that's what we've been working on for real.
Yeah, man, that's super dope. I think people, even just off the little bit that has been done, even the early starts of it, you know, we definitely been seeing some good feedback, and people really loving the idea and wanting to come back. And again, just going back to the original intent of Hugh House, of the community and being community focused, you know, and getting to the root of that and being on the ground with people. And I think that as we continue to kind of push in that direction, it's going to get into a space where, you know, more connections are happening, more people are having conversations, people are connecting, and really building on top of that. And because like last time, I got a couple good books at Bunko on the low, bro. Like I came up, like I came through with the call.
You and DeVita definitely won. You and DeVita definitely won.
DeVita super won,
for real, for real.
DeVita super won. She got a couple joints. And
yeah, anytime you show, that's the number one rule at Bunko, bro. Don't show up empty handed. We're gonna give DeVita a little pass this first time. She showed up empty handed and left with 2 books. So shout out to DeVita, but yeah, that's the number one rule at Bunko. I think we might have to roll that out on the next little slate as we get ready to push for the next edition. Is like, do not show up to Bunko empty handed, bro. Don't do your peoples like that.
That's a fact. That's a super fact. Yeah, man. It was a good time, but just like. Just the look and just seeing different photographs. I pulled up with the Cause, the Cause coffee table book that I had, and you know, I was prepared to you know, let that spread around, but just even going again too, just kind of throwing out there like, yo, man, don't be afraid to bring your good stuff out, man. That's what it's about, you know. So if you ever been to like a buy sell trade situation, or if you've been to like a sneaker convention, you know, that's or anything like that, like it's a similar vibe. Like you want to come through, you want to show off your ill pieces, or you want to show off your ill collection that you already have. You know, that's what it's about. So it can just like bring up dialogue, like, man, you got that, like, oh, let me see, how'd you get that, you know. And the real the gem and the value is the journey, or like the process of how you got it, you know. Similar to like if I had on some some Virgil ones or something like that, it's like, bro, how did you even get that, you know? So just having those conversations, those war stories, and it applies to what we're talking about in terms of like, you know, art books, coffee table books, design books, and again, like our space, like us growing from starting off with, you know, footwear and people that kind of started off in that world getting a little bit older. So now they're getting homes, they're starting families, and their interests are growing, their taste is growing, it's evolving, it's getting richer. So it's a similar concept to what, you know, we all know, but it's just being applied to, again, to different mediums or different formats that really just haven't had that type of love that we've seen like at scale before. We just want to provide that because this is something that is definitely a love and affinity that we all have, and just like, again, just telling like those stories and connecting and swapping that out. And now you can kind of grow your collection and get different perspectives and be able to be in a community that otherwise, you know, from our standpoint, it's not a whole lot of that happening for this specific lane. You know, when you get into this type of topic, like this is not happening all the time. So yeah,
bro. It's definitely a needed space, and I'm excited to see, you know, how we can grow it, where we can take it. You know what I mean? It would be dope to be able to, like, you know, mess with Tashin someday, or mess with Faden someday, and like be able to do something branded after we, you know, continue to build this community of book lovers, or even some independent publishers as well. Because I know there's some independent publishers that are, you know, publishing some amazing work as well. So even doing the research to be able to partner with them, you know what I mean, to get this community of book lovers exposed to, you know, some different releases or different drops or some type of activation. I think that would be like really, really dope. And that's the, you know, the goal for having these properties, right? Like You know what I mean? Workflow is all about, utilizing tools that help you, better your practice and getting better at presenting your work and providing context around your work, right? So it's like as these different tools where you talk about an AI tool like Gamma, or whether you're talking about like, the staple that we know of like Adobe, you know what I mean? Or even in the growth of something like a Canva, it's like, how do we start to partner with these brands and kind of put them directly in front of, the folks that are utilizing their tools on a day-to-day basis. You know what I mean? So we're just going to keep building a community of folks that are making things happen and see what comes out of it, bro. So I'm excited about to go on a journey, and using these kind of these pillars or these quarterly events as like an opportunity or a platform to kind of push us forward in the right direction and see what comes of it, man. So for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I think that'll do it, man. I think that's it. You know what I mean? Like this was good to get the first one off. Still figuring out the format. Like, you know what I mean? Bear with us if you stay here for the whole joint. Appreciate you listening through. We definitely will move into more of like an interview format with various guests from our network. You know what I mean? People who, work at brands, work at agencies, people who run restaurants and other different types of businesses. Like it's really, again, Hugh House is moving. We used to say that we are a creative agency that was leveraging insights from artistic and cultural practice to tell the most equitable stories in the world. And now we're a creative studio celebrating artistic and cultural practice through, emerging tech, media, and events. So that's kind of, from a mission, not a mission statement, but just from a pitch perspective or a brand statement perspective, like that's what we're looking to do now. So it'll definitely have that vibe in terms of the folks that we bringing on to be a part of the podcast and tell their story and let us know and, what they got going on in their world and what's inspiring them. You know what I mean? So we can learn from that and contribute to that as well. So, the top part of it where we kind of talking through what we seeing and all of that, that's kind of the initial just to get us rolling. And then we'll back into use those as like leverage to back into, the personal stories and journeys and experiences of, some of the folks that are really just homies. You know what I'm saying? We know they got cool stories and they're working on cool work. So, we'll have them on to share that with you all. So we appreciate y'all tapping in.
Absolutely, man. Appreciate y'all. Yeah, man. It's thank you to everybody that's checked us out today. Again, to Dave's point, we're definitely still working through everything, and we're gonna keep chopping away at the rock to make it as great as we can make it. And I'm really excited just again to bring on some more guests, talk to some more people, and really connect with everybody, man. And I'm excited for what this is gonna bring, and this is bringing a lot of clarity and light to what we've been working on, we've been talking about. So this has been a long time coming. I'm just excited to finally get this at the forefront and to you. So we'll catch y'all on the next one, man.
No doubt. Peace.
Peace.